Hi, my name is Men-Ching Luk, and I'm Director of Product Management for Oracle Incentive Compensation. I'm here today to talk to you about sales crediting and incentive flows after order to cash in Oracle eBusiness Suite. I'm going to talk to you about, sales crediting and incentive flows and the product that supports that, which is Oracle Incentive Compensation, and how those flows fit into EBS. EBS's order to cash. Okay, so what is Oracle Incentive Comp? Oracle Incentive Comp manages transactional pay for performance, and so you're commissioning on commissionable events, which we call transactions, and we pay both incentivize both employees and non-employees, including external partners, dealers, and suppliers. And we also are very interested in their sales structure. The carrot is the compensation plan in this case. And we calculate compensation that we then pay through payroll and AP. And we also report on it to the field, to comp administration, and to product line managers for both commission reporting and analytics. So the process generally revolves around collecting transactions, calculating, and distributing pay. On the collection side, we can collect from spreadsheets, as well as we have an open collection, which is really just a simple ETL that we use to support our out-of-box integrations with EBS, but can also be configured to point to external tables or third-party legacy systems. We support manual adjustments. And we can also enrich those transactions with additional sales crediting via territories. We model the plans within Oracle Incentive Compensation, and we push the transactions through our highly scalable calculation engine. Payment is governed, is distributed with governance and pushed to our payment interface, which pays via either EBS, AP, or payroll. And lastly, we provide commission reporting and analytics used to motivate your sales force and help them understand their plans and what the desired sales behavior is. For the finance folks, we're going to talk a little bit about value proposition. For finance, it's about improved financial control, minimizing overpayment, improving auditability, and compliance. Gartner claims that overpayment represents 3 to 8% of your annual commission expense. That's quite a big number. And so I can't tell you the number of times that rollouts have been delayed in the final phases of QA when their legacy systems don't match up with the new systems. And almost always, that's because of overpayment in the legacy systems. So let's just use a simple example. Take your annual commission expense, and my example, I've just simplified it and used 5% of $10 million, which represents an overpayment of $500,000. And that can quickly lead to a big ROI and even help pay for the project itself. For the sales force, it's about building that trust in the system, and that reduces shadow accounting. It increases the selling time and the earning potential of your sales force and increases your sales morale. And all of that helps to motivate your sales force to your desired sales behaviors. Motivation is extremely important here. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the order to cash flow so that I can then describe some of these sales crediting and incentive flows within that context. So sales generally starts by booking an order. Fulfillment starts with a pick release, packs, and ships it. And then the accounting team will run a concurrent program, create invoices, and payment is received from the customers. Okay? All of that is fairly it's fairly well controlled. You know, there's a set of guiding accounting principles that helps drive finance and certainly revenue recognition. And so I represent that as having the Woodies of the world, the sheriffs of the world from finance manage how we recognize revenue in order to cash. So when you start to introduce the incentive flows, there's a shift in focus to the sales reps, because they close the deal, which kicks off the order to cash process. And sales are the last cowboys of the Wild West. Compare and contrast that with comp administration, typically part of finance, and the sheriffs to hold the peace. They're very back office. They handle, you know, large volumes of information to great accuracy down to the penny. So if we drill down into the comp admin process, we first need to collect commissionable events. So what is the triggering event for commission? In most companies, the triggering event is in the order to cash flow. Commissions are triggered by payment or invoice, as this is preferred. But in the last 10 to 15 years ago, payment on booking was quite common. In OIC, these are pre-built integrations to order management and AR and include revenue adjustments from the RAM module. Okay, and they're going to go and get things like order, invoice, payment, clawbacks, givebacks, write-offs, and revenue adjustments. We calculate incentives, we process these payments, and we push them to payroll or AP for actual payment. The sales crediting piece is an optional process, and I'm going to drill into that in greater detail in a couple slides. OIC is self-contained with well-defined interfaces in and out and numerous out-of-box integrations with EBS. There are integrations with EBS HR and suppliers who representing the who we're commissioning. There are integrations with EBS OM and AR for bookings, invoices, invoice payments, givebacks, clawbacks, write-offs, and revenue adjustments from RAM. That represents the what events we're commissioning on. We collect these transactions, assign crediting. There's an integration there to TCA for named account support. We calculate and pay through integrations with EBS payroll or AP. Lastly, the data from the OLTP system is pushed via ETLs to analytics to motivate reps in reporting. So I'm going to start sales crediting with an understanding of what the challenge is. If you go back to your back office right now and grab an order and look at that order, you'll find that you will have maybe one rep on that order, and that will be your primary account rep most typically, the person who is responsible for putting the order in the system. However, the challenge is that you have a host of reps to pay on that order. In general, every order line can have 10 to 50 sales reps that need to be paid. And that's the challenge. Part of that challenge is that order to cash flow, where the order is booked, is focused on revenue recognition and not on commissioning. Now, if you go take a step back and take a look at your go-to-market strategy, you will have the United States, for instance, and your go-to-market strategy will involve breaking up the United States into a number of territories that you use to sell into the market. At the very top of that triangle are your most strategic customers. Those are your named accounts that have dedicated sales teams to sell for you there. You may have industry-specific sales forces, channel-based sales forces, and at the bottom somewhere you're also going to have geographically based sales forces. there are also other supporting organizations that help in your go-to-market strategy. You have product overlays. Product overlays are specialists, and they have a separate go-to-market strategy because they need to be organized by product, right? And sometimes maybe industry. So the manifestation of your go-to-market strategy is in territories, and the reps that work on the territories are driven by a set of rules. Those rules represent your sales crediting rules that are implemented in EBS territories. Now, when I talk to customers, most of them think that their sales, in particular, that their product overlays represent a really difficult problem. Much more, in some cases, more difficult than calculating commission. Sales crediting unlocks that key to determining those overlays, because there's a separation of the order and enriching that order with who the overlay is and rolling up across that overlay structure. On the left, you can see in the yellow hierarchy is a primary sales management hierarchy. At the bottom is your lowest level sales rep. He's the guy that's typically on your order. Okay? And what sales crediting does is it gives credit to the lowest level person who is helping out on that order in the overlay organization. At that point, the transaction will roll up the two hierarchies and get attributed to everyone who needs to be credited on the order line. So how does sales crediting do that? It determines the who and the how much. Okay, so you push a transaction into the system. You've got these rules that say, you know, if it's product X and primary sales rep Joe, that Mary is the person who helped out on the deal and should get credit. So the territory engine determines that and puts on every transaction the rep's name, their role, and a split percentage. Okay, so you know, sales crediting is so great, right? Why? The question I get asked all the time is, why not do it at booking? Why do it at the very end within the sales commissioning process? Well, it's garbage in, garbage out. Unfortunately, in the real world, it's very difficult to get the sales force to maintain accurate crediting rules, territory rules, to the point where when you book the order, that the territories are correct. So if you do it farther upstream, it creates problems that need to be fixed if they're wrong. If you have high accuracy and your territory rules don't change very often, you can look at implementing crediting at the order booking time. But most customers will do that as part of the sales commissioning process. So most implementers I talk to, they look at an set of incentive compensation requirements, and they only want to implement the plan. They end up implementing them in a very siloed nature, and they're missing out on a great deal of value to the organization. If you take a step back and think about it holistically from a sales performance standpoint, you can really kick it up a notch. To kick it up a notch is a framework for continuous improvement centered around a sales performance data mart. You're bringing in sales daily, calculating on a more frequent, timely manner, enriching sales data with territory and sales team responsible, understanding the commission costs on every sale, and using that insight and transparency to motivate your sales force where they are with mobility. Using analytics to refine the territories, quotas, and plans, ensuring at the end of the day that your plans are effective and aligned to corporate objectives. With a framework for continuous improvement in place, you can create the transparency and feedback loop needed to drive top-line growth for your corporation, and leveraging incentives as a strategic alignment tool. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this useful. We went over incentive and sales crediting flows and how they fit into order to cash, and most importantly, how to leverage incentives as a strategic alignment tool.